Notice number 8. Member for Indi to move motion relating to regional universities appearing on the notice paper in her name.
Member for Indi.
I move the motion relating to regional universities in the terms in which it appears on the notice paper.
You have the call.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I'm pleased to this motion calling on the government to develop a national, regional higher education strategy. As all regional MPs know, regional universities do more than educate. They are a critical player in workforce planning. They're a driver of economic growth and development. They're key employers. They innovate, they inspire, they act as major attractors to young people, and they can make the difference between economic survival and the totally undesirable alternative. However, to ensure regional higher education is prioritised and remains a focus for federal governments beyond today, we must have a long-term commitment which is coordinated and has bipartisan support. We must have a strategy. In my community, access to high-quality tertiary education is a recognised priority. In a post-budget survey of more than 1,000 people across the electorate in May this year, 92% of respondents identified education as their top priority. So regional universities demonstrate that access to high-quality tertiary education does more than educate the future workforce in regional communities. They play a central role in the economic, social and cultural development of the regions and consequently the nation. And over the past year, I've worked really closely with La Trobe and Charles Sturt universities in my electorate and the Regional Universities Network, and they also agree we need a strategic approach to the future. So to my friends on the government side, can you work with me on this? All the regional MPs in this place know that high-quality tertiary education is a major driver of economic development and should not be seen in isolation from other regional development issues. And I want to acknowledge my parliamentary colleague, Senator Mackenzie, and the leadership role she has played to progress this. In the government's Regional 2030 statement, they have said they want to build the kind of sustainable regional communities our children and grandchildren either want to stay in or come back to. And this will mean thinking beyond the next election. And to address this need, the government established the Regional Australia Ministerial Task Force in March. And we were told that a cross-portfolio task force was the best way to implement good regional policy, that the task force would focus on closing the gap between the bush and the city in terms of health, education and infrastructure, and to continue to invest in rural and regional and remote Australia. But central to good regional policy is a recognition of the workforce and economic development requirements of the community, and this is underpinned by the TAFEs and universities. And the Regional Universities Network run reports that about 3/4 of those who study at regional universities stay in the regions to work. And conversely, students who leave their communities to take up university studies in major cities are much less likely to return home after graduating. A national strategy would support the role of regionally based higher education providers in creating diverse and resilient regional economies and take into consideration other relevant policies and programs. And the Commonwealth Department of Education is currently conducting an independent review into regional, rural and remote education, and their discussion paper tells us that it will consider key challenges and barriers that impact on students' learning outcomes, including transitions towards the future regarding study, training and employment. But there is a missing piece in this discussion paper. This review does not address regional universities and those who choose to study there. This seems inconsistent with the government's decentralisation agenda and notably the government's decision to relocate the APVMA to Armidale, with one of the key selection criteria for the new office that it is with a 10K radius of the University of New England. In closing, I want to reflect on the words from today's editorial in my local paper, the Albury-Wodonga Border Mail, and I quote, "Larger regional centres such as Albury-Wodonga have benefited from universities' presence. In the Borders case, it has had the added plus of go-ahead TAFE colleges, especially in Wodonga, and cites Charles Sturt and La Trobe universities. All must be done to ensure there is no attempt to water down these universities at a time when their commitment is to expand in order to even better serve our regional areas. Our universities fill a role that will never be matched by the nation's Ivy League club. So that is why it is so important we have strong regional universities. So tonight I'm saying to the government, pay attention to the regions, and the way that I see forward is to have a national strategy that's got long-term bipartisan support and delivers us both the students, the economy and the cultural changes we need.
Thank you, Member for Indi. Is there a seconder?